Hi there, welcome to today's painting tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how you can paint a satin bow with acrylic paints. So let's get started. I'm going to start with a size 0 round brush. And let's use some of this dark color. We have a dark brown. And I'm going to put some around this edge here. And then come up along this bottom section. And if you want to paint along with me, you can grab the sketch in the description below. Let's take some of this light brown and start putting that in here. And up along this area. And then I'm going to come down this way, so we're going to use that dark brown. And then the burnt sienna. And then on this section, again, we'll take the dark brown. Let's put some along here, around the edges. And then along this section, if you can follow that sketch to see where these little marks are for the folds. Then let's come down in this section here. I'm going to curve it a little bit. And then add some over here. And then we have this fold. Can bring that down. Okay, and then the burnt sienna. And that's going to give us a nice warm effect here. Okay, let's switch to a different brush. I'm going to pick up a 3 flat brush. We want to start getting into some color. So I'm going to use some of this coral pink. And let's start bringing that down. So I'm going to go over that brown a little bit. And pop some of this bright, bright pink in here. Let's bring some up along this edge. And then bring some along this section. Then we'll come over here on the left side. And then in the center. And down along here. Bring it along here. Okay, so we have some shadow and we have some really bright colors. So now let's get into some shadowy midtones. So I'm going to pick up this rose pink. Let's add some of the gray into it and see if we can mix a shadow color. And let's work at one section at a time. So let's focus on this section here. So I'm going to start bringing this around. Thinking about where my shadows are. And there's a lot of them in this section here. Then let's pick up some of this purple. This is another shadow color. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up some pure pink. Start putting that in. Okay, and while that pink is still wet, let's pick up some white paint. And start putting in some of these highlights. Okay, now let's look at the section in the center. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna in there. And then pick up some gray. And then some of this purplish gray that we mixed. Thinking about where the shadows are. And if you need more shadow, pick up some dark brown. You can mix that in as well. Then we'll get lighter, so pick up that straight mid-tone pink. And then some white. And put some of that in the middle. Okay, so let's come down here and do this section here. So I'm going to take some gray. Thinking about where the shadows are. And then let's pick up some of this purple. So there's a nice shadow color. And then we can pick up that mid-tone pink. Bring that in. Really nice bold brush strokes here. And then we'll pick up some of the white and start feathering that in. Okay, let's go over to this section. So I'm going to take some of the pink and then some of this purple for a shadow. And then we'll add some white and pink. Okay, and then let's work on this section here. So we could take some gray. Think about that shadow. And we can add some purple. We'll let a shadow in the center area, up along this edge. Okay, we have a rich color down here, so I'm going to take some of this coral pink and some of that burnt sienna. Maybe a little bit of the burnt umber. Okay, I'm going to continue with the gray. And then let's pick up the mid-tone pink. Start feathering that in. And then I'm going to get lighter, so I'm going to pick up some white. And start putting that in. Okay, I want some loose, sort of messy brush strokes here. Okay, so now you can step back and look at your work. I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to take this 0 dome brush. I'm going to come back in and add some shading, some shadow with this brush. So any place where I lost some shadow and some definition, I'm going to come back with this brush. Bring some of that shadow down here. Okay, you could take some of the coral and put some of that back in. Be along some of these sections. It's kind of a warm highlight almost. Okay, and you could even bring in some of the burnt sienna. That sort of warms things up. Okay, I'm going back to that flat brush. And I'm going to put in some highlights. I'm going to use that flat brush and bring some white highlights back in here. Just trying to get some nice loose highlights. Put some over here. You can move your brush in different directions to get a nice loose painterly look. Okay, and if you need to come back with more shadow, you can pick up your grays and your purples and bring some of that shadow back in. Okay, with the 0 round, I'm going to do some final highlights in the center. Just put a few highlights right in there that are really bold. Might take a little bit more of this coral and put a few little highlights with that. Okay, and I think we will call this demonstration complete. So that is how you can paint a pink satin bow with acrylic paints. I hope you give this a try. Like and subscribe for more painting tutorials. Grab my free guide in the description below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.